As soon as this was over, you know what the one thing I knew what I had to do was? Tell all the souls I know about it. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about a new VOD release called Don't Tell a Soul. Before we go any further, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you saw it already, or if you were looking forward to it, if you weren't planning on seeing it. Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, make sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoy these reviews because it helps me out immensely by getting my channel out there and growing the community. And if you are new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new films, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's jump into Don't Tell a Soul. This stars Jack Dylan Grazer and Fionn Whitehead as two thieving teenage brothers stealing money to help their sick mom, played by Mean Suvari, and they match wits with a troubled security guard, played by Rainn Wilson, who's stuck at the bottom of a forgotten well. This is written and directed by Alex McCauley, and I guess this is technically his second feature film. He's produced a bunch of movies, but according to IMDb, he has one other directing credit to his name, which is a film called The Sparkle Room in 2001, though it has no information on it whatsoever when you actually go to the page. So, I'm not sure there what that's all about. But this was marketed as more of a horror film, or at least it was recommended in a lot of horror circles, but it's really not by any means. This is more of a thriller mixed with a coming-of-age drama. Sort of. Actually, it's very tonally uneven as far as what movie it wants to be. I'll say before I get too deep into that though, we'll start with some positives. I thought the performances were all good. I think that was what had me intrigued from most of the movie, as they all had me care about these characters. I think Jack Dylan Grazer is an extremely talented individual, and I think he's consistently knocked it out of the park with each of his roles, and that's once again the case here as the younger of the brothers who has more of this guilty conscience. Fionn Whitehead, who's probably the most consistently antagonistic of the cast, was also very good. He gives a very larger-than-life sort of performance that had me enjoy hating him, especially after he repeatedly bullies his younger brother into going along with his plans. And then Mean Suvari was okay as the mom. She had the least amount to do, as she's mostly confined to the couch or a bed for much of the film, sounding very congested and oblivious to most of what's going on, but she did well with what she was given. It's just, other than a couple of big moments later on in the movie, it wasn't much. But Rainn Wilson was also solid here. I know he's done his fair share of dramatic roles, and I do wish we did see more of them because I know he's capable of something compelling given the right script, and we saw a little bit of that creep out here. It's just the movie loses me with its story. There definitely was a lot of potential here for something really interesting, and I like the moral dilemma that Jack Dylan Grazer's character was in, as he wanted to help Rainn Wilson out, but he knows he also saw them pull off this robbery and it would be a disaster to the entire family if he were to be pulled out of that well. And there were a number of twists and turns it took that I thought stretched out the suspension of disbelief a bit too much, but it still held on just enough that I could somewhat buy what's going on. However, where it falls apart is when the film swings between these two wild extremes. One minute, it would be incredibly mean-spirited. Characters at various points assault each other, blackmail one another, they even threaten to kill each other at various points, but then the next scene, it would suddenly be overly sentimental. These same characters would interact as if nothing happened, or there'd be some sappy message shoehorned in there about doing the right thing or the meaning of family, and it was very jarring. On top of all that, the behavior at times just did not match the situation. Like, there's one scene where Jack Dylan Grazer is talking to Rainn Wilson over a walkie-talkie while he's still down in the well, and they're talking so nonchalantly to one another like it was just two buddies hanging out on a Friday night, despite the fact that Rainn Wilson's life is hanging in this kid's hands. And this is just after a scene where Rainn Wilson is begging to be let out. It's like the scenario's so extreme, yet there was no sense of urgency whatsoever. And then another thing would be, there are these moments where the relationship between the two brothers begins to deteriorate big time, in the form of them making some pretty serious threats to one another, or engaging in some pretty extreme behavior. But the next scene, they're together with friends talking to each other in such a way that it was like two little kids fighting in a schoolyard over something petty. I get that these are still teenagers we're talking about here, and maybe this was an attempt to humanize them a bit, despite the unusual situation, but the extreme tonal shifts it kept taking just didn't sit right with me whatsoever, and it made a lot of these situations come off as forced. There were individual moments that I liked, but when you put everything together, it just doesn't mesh well, and it especially loses me once we get to the end. See, because I thought the film, for the most part, due to the performances, was okay, and it was an enjoyable, somewhat ridiculous thriller. But there are a few decisions made in that last act that just seem totally contradictory to some of the characters' behavior throughout the entire rest of the movie, and I just couldn't buy it whatsoever. And it really just rubbed me the wrong way, so it deflated what little enjoyment I had left with the film. This didn't totally work for me, unfortunately. It had some solid moments where it was genuinely thrilling, and I liked some of the twists that it took. Plus, I thought it was supported by some strong performances, in particular from Jack Dylan Grazer and Rainn Wilson, but this couldn't seem to pick a lane. It didn't know if it wanted to be this serious, brutal thriller, or this sweet, sentimental, coming-of-age drama about having to make some tough decisions. The way it would go from one extreme to the other made it not feel cohesive whatsoever. So, while there was some potential there, and it's not terrible, it just ultimately was a miss for me. Don't Tell a Soul gets a 5.5 out of 10. It's a shame because from the way this was being built up, it seemed like it was potentially going to be this big January surprise. And it had a great cast to boot, who were pretty much the main reasons why this wasn't terrible. But I do hope to see what Alex Macaulay does next, because this seemed like a simple misstep, and there's potential for something great next time around. But let me know, did you see Don't Tell a Soul, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did the story work for you? Did you find it thrilling? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.